Good morning and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this morning. Even though it is International Football Week, there is still a few Celtic stories kicking around this morning, and we're going to cover three of them in particular. There's a couple of transfer stories, so make sure that you give the video a thumbs up, as it does help with the algorithm, and share the video if you liked on social media. So that helps also get it out to as many Celtic fans as possible. Okay, the first story we're talking about is Celtic transfer news and transfer speculation that would bring a player that would play beside his countrymen. Yes, Daisen Maeda, Ryo Hatate, Tomoki Iwata, Yoki Kobayashi, and of course Kyogo Furuhashi. Do we really need another Japan forward? But this guy does not play in Japan, he plays in Germany. The fact that he is now currently valued at €800,000, he can play on the left wing, he can play as an attacking midfield player, or as a second striker, or maybe even as a main striker. It doesn't look like he's in the Japan squad, so he might not be going away. But do we really need another player that might potentially leave us in mid-season to go and play in these cups down in Asia? Tell me what you think in the comments. The fact that Hearts were targeting this player during the summer and they could have got him for around about 400,000, it suggests there's the report I'm just reading now says he's now valued at around about 800,000. Celtic do have the money to spend, but that type of news will not set the heather alight on fire this morning. That is one thing with Celtic fans. They're looking to probably spend a little bit more money and bring in someone of a bit more quality that can hit the ground running. Is this type of player another player that we can make better and sell on? Well, at 800,000, you're kind of suggesting yes. Tell me what you think in the comments, because he says that his strengths are dribbling and one-on-one situations. He could feel he can get round any player. Is it the type of player that we need? Tell me what you think about that in the comments. Although I think we need a striker, we all know that we're crying out for a striker. Is a Japanese forward the type of player that we really need at Celtic? Do we need someone that can play in Europe? Could be someone that is even Scottish for the whole Scottish allocation. Now, the second Celtic news transfer speculation that has been going around this morning is one that was kicking around in the summer also. Celtic have been given a chance to sign a £4 million striker who, let's face it, he hasn't played a lot of football this season. He scored 19 goals last season, but Sydney van Hooijdonk, Bologna, have said that they're ready to listen to offers for the Serie A misfit. You remember that he fell out with his club in the summer. Now, I'm going to say personally, I don't think that it's the type of player that Celtic will bring to the club, because over the last few years, any player at the club who has upset the dressing room in any way has been swiftly moved on by the club, namely one striker from Greece that is having an absolute ball in America and scoring goals for fun. The fact that he's a bit like his dad, and let's not beat about the bush, Pierre left Celtic quite abruptly due to the fact that he was the type of player that wasn't quiet in the dressing room, and Tommy Burns even said that back in the day. Anyway, let's move on for that. The fact that he is available, should Celtic go for the young Van Hooijdonk, the son of Pierre. He hasn't started many games. He's only played 41 minutes in Italy's top flight this season. For me, I'd say it's a no-go. I wouldn't spend £4 million on a player that hasn't played a lot of minutes. 41 minutes is absolutely nothing. And especially when we have Kyogo, he's up there. We've got O. Do we really need someone that's going to come in and sit and play backup? He's already upset the apple cart at his own club. So I would say personally no. Tell me what you think in the comments, because it is the One Celtic Fans View, and I want to get the comments and thoughts of all the Celtic fans around the world. That's a hard one. It is a hard one. Let's move on to the next story, because there is another story that's kicking around this morning. And if you remember back to 2006, and talking about transfer windows, if you remember back to the early 2000s, the winter transfer window was always a fantastic window, because it was a window where we would all wait and see on deadline day who Celtic would bring in at the last moment. And there used to be vast crowds, thousands of people waiting to see the player that Celtic would announce just before midnight on deadline day. Sadly, those days are gone, probably for the better, a lot of Celtic fans will say, because if you remember those times, it was generally players that had played in the English Premier League, the English Premiership, and had fantastic times during the 90s, were coming to the end of their careers, and they wanted to have that little peg that said that they played for Celtic. One of those players was Roy Keane, yes, the Manchester United legend, now TV pundit, who does not miss when he talks on the television. But Manchester United captain, the legend that was Roy Keane, was a fantastic player in his time, came to Celtic in January 2006. Tell me in the comments what his first game was. This will be one, and don't Google it. And you're going to get people going and Googling the answer. Don't Google it. People that were at the game will remember how embarrassing it was. And it was the third round of the Scottish Cup. And let's just say it wasn't a good day for Celtic. So tell me what the score was, and tell me the team that we played. And then Gordon Strachan was the manager back in the time, but Roy Keane himself, Roy Keane has come out and said that he's reflected on the Celtic transfer, and he's admitted that he embarrassed himself and he should have retired after leaving Manchester United. His debut ended up in a shock result. It wasn't even a shock, it was a shocking. Roy Keane admitted he embarrassed himself and he should have retired after departing Manchester United, but he opted to move north and play for Celtic in his debut against a club that we should never have had the result of against. He did go on to say that he spoke about his hip problems that he was having at the time. He says he had a year left on his contract, and he spoke to Gordon Strachan about the situation. And after speaking to the doctor, he was only 34. He was only 34 at the time, so you would think, you know, in modern day football, with the sports scientists and everything that they've got now, he probably could have played on for another couple of years. But back in the sort of the 90s and the early 2000s, sports science was kind of just kicking off, and it wasn't what it was today. He was told by the doctors at the time, he said, look, if you keep on playing on, you're going to need a hip replacement by the time that you're 40. He should have retired, said Roy Keane, when he left Manchester United. He lost a bit of love for the game after that. And he went up to Celtic, and his hip was really sore, his painkillers for training. He tore his hamstring. Another player that came to Celtic and tore his hamstring. How many players over the years have came to Celtic and tore hamstrings? Maybe not used to the speed that Celtic play at. He did go on to say in the article, he phoned Gordon Strachan, spoke about the situation, and when he hung up from Gordon Strachan, he hung up his boots. He had no hesitation. He said the relief lifted something off him. He says when you have injuries, it beats you up when you were the type of player he was, and he does feel that he embarrassed himself. Roy Keane's first game for Celtic, January 2006. Tell me in the comments who the team was and what was the score. Bad days. It was a good time to be a Celtic fan, but that was it was good, the transfer windows in those days, because you would always get a good player coming in. But the transfer speculation will not be the same this year round. Should Celtic go for the young Van Hooijdonk? Tell me what you think about in the comments with that one. And should we pick up another Japanese forward? That's an interesting one. It's an interesting story. The fact that Hearts looked at the player in the summer, they could have got him for around about 400,000, but it said that his value is now 800 grand. He's doubled in valuation in just 6 months' time. Is it the fact because Celtic have come knocking? They've obviously Nurnberg play in the second division in Germany, and they picked him up from Japan, I think it was. Anyway, tell me what you think in the comments. With that, on that note, have a fantastic day, Celtic fans all around the world.
Lit. Roll up to the party, roll up to the party, roll up to the